In today's Florida Man Friday, I'm going to tell you a very short case of a pizza delivery that turned into a nightmare over a tip. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, your Florida Man Friday edition. If you are new here, hi, my name is Kai, and I will be your host. These Florida Man Friday episodes are usually just short stories of cases that happen in the lovely state of Florida. So take a listen all the way to the end, and if you like it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another Florida Man episode or any other true crime stories. If you're a returning lamb, thank you so much for your continued support, as well as thank you to my sponsors, the Lamb Patreons, patreon.com/Love and Murder. Don't forget that you can also subscribe to Love and Murder in our Patreon. If you're not ready to be a sponsor of Love and Murder as yet, you can actually sign up to the Patreon for free. And you do get a little bit of benefits by signing up to the Patreon for free. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now let's get into this Florida Man Friday mini episode. On December 22nd, 2024, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 call reporting a home invasion and stabbing at the Riviera Motel in Kissimmee, Florida. When police arrived, they found 35-year-old Melinda Irizarry suffering from multiple stab wounds, 14 to be exact. She was rushed to a nearby hospital where she underwent emergency surgery for a ruptured lung and stab wounds to her chest, arms, legs, and abdomen. Now, let's get into what even happened. That night, Melinda had placed a pizza order at a local Marco's pizza shop. The total bill was $33.10. When the delivery driver arrived at the motel, Melinda handed her a $50 bill. However, the driver told her that store policy prohibited giving change. So, Melinda went back and got smaller bills to pay for the bill. Melinda then tipped the driver $2. Witnesses reported that the driver, quote, rolled her eyes and walked away without saying anything. Melinda later told police that she felt the driver was visibly upset about the tip. Sometime after delivering the pizza, the driver went back to the motel with an unidentified male. Both suspects were dressed in black and wore masks. The male suspect carried a gun with him, and together they forced their way into Melinda's motel room, where she was staying with her boyfriend and her 5-year-old daughter. The driver, armed with a knife, reportedly demanded money and began searching the family's belongings. Melinda attempted to shield her daughter during the invasion, as any mother would. The driver then stabbed Melinda multiple times. Melinda threw her daughter onto the bed to protect her and tried to get her phone, but the driver smashed the phone and continued the attack. I can't even imagine how scary that is, and she is just trying to make sure her daughter survives. The suspects then fled the scene, taking personal belongings from the motel room. While being treated at the hospital, Melinda learned that she was pregnant. Despite her severe injuries, she was in stable condition after the surgeries, but the trauma of the attack remained. I don't think, I don't think people realize that what they do remains, but at the same time, I don't think they care, because for you to even have a thought to, hey, I got a $2 tip, so I'm going back to, stab up this woman, traumatize her family, get belongings in a motel. So, they don't even have their belongings there. They're traveling probably. And it's like, for you to have that thought, you wouldn't even care that the trauma lasted. Police quickly identified the driver as 22-year-old Brianna Alvelo, which, okay, that was easy to identify the driver because you're literally on the clock. All you had to do was go to the pizza place and say, hey, who delivered here? Like, make it make sense. How are you trying to, just the pure stupidity, idiocy. Anyways, they identified only 22 years old. She was only 22 years old. Brianna Alvelo as the primary suspect in the case. She was arrested on charges of home invasion with a firearm, attempted murder, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. She's currently being held at the Osceola County Jail. The unidentified male suspect remains at large, and police are urging anyone with information to contact the crime line at 1-800-423-8477. And I will continue to watch this case, but can you imagine that? I see on social media, they talk about tip culture. is getting out of hand. Look, tip culture is getting out of hand. You got a $2 tip. It's a tip. You realize tips are optional? We don't have to tip you. You decided to be a delivery driver. You know what comes with that. I'm not saying, don't tip and all that stuff, but if somebody tips $2, it is what it is. You can roll your eyes and be mad and go back to work and hope the next person tips more than that. But it is what it is. We don't have to tip. Tipping is not mandatory. You know what it should be is these restaurants should actually raise the hourly payment. That's where the highway robbery comes from. Not us, not the patrons, the restaurant owners. Paying what? I don't even know. Don't they pay like below minimum wage and then expect you to make the rest of your money in tips? Like, suppose my budget is literally for my meal. Like I say, you know what? I've been working my ass off for like a month. I'm going to take my family out for a meal. I have an extra $50. That's literally my budget. So I order my family something nice for $50. Y'all are going to shame me because my budget was $50 for me to take my family out once in like 6 months or a month or whatever, and I didn't have enough for a tip. I know there are some people out there that'll be like, well, you should have tipped. Tipping is an optional service. Optional. We do not have to tip. Again, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also saying if somebody gives you $2, you don't know their situation. And a lot of people like saying, well, if you don't have the money to tip 10%, then don't even order out. Look, I hear you, and that's unrealistic. If I worked really hard and I was doing badly, and I don't know, for instance, let's say the podcast. So say the podcast, I wasn't bringing in any money, and then suddenly, I brought in my first, $1,000, just for instance, right? And I'm saying, as a treat to my family, even though I'm going to take this $1,000 and put it back into the podcast and pay the bills and whatever, keep a roof over my head, as a treat to myself, for reaching my goal, and to my family, I'm going to take them out. I have $50 to spend. I'm going to be shamed because I didn't have the extra 10% minimum to put on top of that $50. I don't think that's a shameful thing. You don't know everybody's situation. I think the people we should be shaming are the restaurant owners. That's who. In any other profession, you're required to pay your workers at least minimum wage. At least, except in the restaurant business where I don't understand that. And I know there's people who's going to disagree with me. I want to hear your disagreements in the comments below. But this was ridiculous. She got $2 and she went back to stab up a woman who happened to be pregnant. Now, imagine if you had killed that woman. That was an automatic double homicide. All because you think you were entitled to more than the $2. So what was the total? It was like $33.10. So 10% of that would have been like $3.31. So she was under that by $1.31, and you went back to stab her up. And guess what? That gas you spent on your car going back, that was more than that $2 tip, probably. You had to go pick somebody up. You had to go home, change your clothes, go pick somebody up, then drive back. All of that was more than that $2 tip. So you're the one who wasted it. And also now you're going to jail. Now you're going to have attorney fees, etc., etc. No job, all over $2, where you could have just been perturbed, rolled your eyes, and went about your business and hope that the next delivery would have given you more than a $2 tip. This is what I'm saying. It's getting ridiculous. Like anything you do, people are holding out their hands for a tip. Like it's that, I don't know. To me, it's crazy. I know I might be in the minority here, so I definitely want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on tipping, and let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments below. And speaking of comments, let's see if we have anything from the past Friday episodes. And we do. So we had a Florida Man Friday where an 8-year-old witnessed his father being shot. This was the case of Edward Druzolowski. All of the episodes that I'm mentioning, the link to it will be in the show notes below if you missed those cases. So Wow Knight said, I do not believe that he approached him in an aggressive manner was a setup to kill, my opinion. And Jamal Ray said, On January 2nd, 2025, Mr. Edward Druzolowski was exonerated in Florida on the Stand Your Ground law. Mr. Edward Druzolowski knew the tree cutter was somewhat of a hothead and decided to confront him on his side of the yard while the tree cutter has his 8-year-old son with him and a chainsaw. A reasonable person would call police and state he has an intruder in his property and don't want to confront him as he has a chainsaw. No, Mr. Edward Druzolowski decided to confront the intruder from cutting tree limbs. If someone wants to cut tree limbs on my property, go ahead, do the trimming. Thank you very much. In my opinion, using the, quote, stand your ground law to dismiss charges against Mr. Edward Druzolowski was incorrectly applied because Mr. Edward Druzolowski, although is on his own property, confronted the victim knowing full well that there's been friction between the victim and the victim's father. I just cannot comprehend how the Florida law could be applied to this case. The man was trimming tree branches. Sure, he was on someone else's property and was aggressive. I also had aggressive neighbors, and when they decided to trespass on my property, I was not about to confront them. I called the cops. I did, however, video record the interaction. Jamal, first of all, thank you for the update saying that he was exonerated on the Stand Your Ground law. That is diabolical because, like you said, why did he go out there with a gun anyway? Like, if you didn't hear the case, click on the link in the show notes below and go back and listen to that case. Why did he confront this man anyway? Like, yeah, that wasn't a stand your ground law. It's not like the man was coming after him. You went after the man. You were the one who made the first step. You were the one who was the aggressor. So yeah, Jamal Ray, I completely agree with you. And Land of Waterfall said he just got off. The judge dismissed the charge. And Wow Knight replied to him, but judge is an idiot, but it looks, and I think he was saying it looks like two idiots collide. So yeah, well, that was the update on that case. Thank you for that. And I think the update was complete asinine bullcrap. So if you didn't catch that case, click on the link in the show notes below so you can hear the full episode and you can put that with this update and make your own decisions. And I had done a Saturday short one time because I had missed a Florida Man Friday. So this Saturday short was Oxford student stabs boyfriend and avoids jail time because she's too smart. It was the case of Lavinia Woodward. Again, link to that case is in the show notes below. And Azza said, similar leniency and blind trust shown to blonde, blue-eyed, and young nurse Lucy Letby, who continued her murder of infants, and the Indian doctor who first raised concerns about her, was ordered by the managers to apologize to her. Wow. I think I have this case somewhere in season 5, but I think I have it to be a bonus episode. So if you want to hear my take on this case, then go ahead and join the Patreon and you'll hear my take on this case. But it's somewhere in season 5. I don't remember what date I have it set at. The Lucy Letby case. Yeah, go back and listen to that case of Lavinia Woodward because their reasoning for not giving her jail time, even though she completely stabbed up her boyfriend, was insane. That was a Saturday short. Link to that is in the show notes below. And that's all the comments that I have for you today. Go ahead and continue leaving your comments. It's season 5. I'm back to reading your comments, so I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think about this Florida Man Friday or any of the cases that I mentioned in this episode. And that is all I have for you today. And I will see you. Oh, wait, I do have a new newsletter. If you want weekly reminders of the cases that has come out, plus you get an extra bonus case just for the newsletter. I mean, I put it in our Patreon too, because the Patreon lambs get everything that I put out. But if you just want to be in the newsletter and you want just one bonus case, then go ahead and sign up to my newsletter. It's a Substack. The link is in the show notes below. So you get one bonus case every week. It'll be written for you to read it, or AI Jane will be narrating it. So you do get a bonus episode every week if you sign up to the newsletter. Plus, on top of that, you get reminders of the episodes that came out for the week. So that link to the Substack is in the show notes below. So go ahead and join. I won't be bombarding you with daily emails. So it's just once a week. Sign up to the newsletter. This is something new that I started. Link is in the show notes below. And again, that is all I have for you in today's episode, and I will see you in the next case. Bye.